Hey guys, how's it going? Okay, so after putting up yesterday's video, which I kind of forced myself to do for the better sake of, I was like, yeah, I need to do this, right? Um, I want to do kind of another update. So, to explain, uh, I'm recording from I have my phone mounted on my drill press, so if you're wondering what that is, it's my drill press clamp. So let me explain. So I was working on the original folding knife, right? I know it's probably gonna be hard to see me with all these lights in the way. Um, this one I can't really do anything about. That's just like the main basement lighting. That's like 14,000 lumens. So yeah, you're just gonna have to deal with it. Anyway, um, so when I first started working on this folding knife, I was originally going to make it a frame lock, purely because the steel was really thick, and I don't really have belt sanders that are good enough to grind everything down. I have a 1x30 and I have a 4x36. The 4x36 is decent. It does really well. I've used it for making custom knife projects and whatnot. By custom knife projects, I mean like modifying knives, doing texture, that kind of thing. But for like grinding down like the thickness of blades, I'm trying to. I'll step in the way of the light to make it easier for the camera. There you go. To grind down the thickness of these blades, or just metal I'm working on, um, I just don't really have a good process of doing it, because the belt sander, the 4x36, is horizontal. I don't believe it moves upright. Plus, it doesn't really have a tray. It does have I think it's a 5-inch sanding wheel, maybe 6-inch. I have to remember. I can't remember off the top of my head, which is still great. But the problem is the platform that it's on has like little divots in it, and sometimes the material from cutting holes in like the metal, whether it's pivot holes or just relief holes, whatever, gets hung up in the grooves, so it still makes it kind of difficult. I don't have it's not a flat piece of flat piece of sheet metal that's meant to be like a table. Anyway, so I just thought it would be easier if I could. There. Yeah, that's a little better. Actually, I could just turn this off. There. Okay, so yeah, so it's just easier to go with an original thickness than it is to try and grind everything down. So that was the original idea. I was gonna do a frame lock. I was just gonna keep the original thickness of the material. I wanted to make a big beefy knife, that kind of thing, right? Now, I'm a first-time blade maker. Most people who make knives for the first time just do a fixed blade. It's simple, all that fun jazz. There's really not a lot that can go wrong, per se. Fixed blades are relatively straightforward. Just get a piece of... I'm not doing the forging process. I'm doing the stock removal process, which anybody can do. You can do this with, like, honestly, simple hand tools. And by simple hand tools, you can use a hacksaw. You can use, I will say, drilling holes, like drilling like relief holes to basically lighten the material when you're going to put scales on it, and also drilling the holes for the screws, whether you're using Corby bolts or Torx or just screws from the hardware store. You're going to have to do that. So, I guess at the end of the day, you could just buy like a cheap, like $20-$30 drill. But for the most part, you can get most of these material. Like, you don't have to have a ton of, specialized equipment or anything like that. I have more than the average person, but I also have less than what most start with. Or so I also have more than what most start with. Because most people just start with like angle grinder, belt sander, and then a vise. That's it. You know, the drill press I inherited. The bandsaw I got, I actually bought for myself as a birthday gift last year. Um, and it was something I'd wanted for like months, absolute months. Having to cut everything out with an angle grinder, where I am at least, is just kind of sketchy. I'm in a basement with a lot of like flammable materials around. There's some sensitive items that could get damaged. I could catch things, you know, it could start a fire. And the only place to really do that kind of thing is in the corner where the bandsaw is. So you have to be hunched over in like an awkward position. And I just, you know, it's like a bandsaw would make my life so much easier. So that was like kind of like the really exuberant purchase. But everything else, I either got or either inherited. The 4x36 was my dad's. I think he used it for woodwork. I also have a 1.5 horsepower bench grinder, and then the drill press. Anyway, getting way off track here. So yeah, the whole point, I wanted to do a folding knife because it was just more challenging. It's more interesting to me than doing fixed blades. I'm not a big fixed blade person. So obviously you guys saw a good portion of the process on the channel. I put up like what, 3 videos, I think. 2-3 videos. I had more footage recorded. Here's what happened. I was going, some of the footage I can't have audio in it because I had music playing, so I was like, I don't really know if you guys want to watch me just doing things without audio. I feel like you guys appreciate the commentary a bit more. Anyway, so if you're curious on where this is going 7 minutes in, I'm basically explaining why I chose a folding knife to make a folding knife as my first knife, how that went wrong, and how I'm currently working on a new one, a new design, and it's going a little better, and I'm sharing what I've learned so far. It's pretty much the gist of it. Probably should clarify in the first like minute of the video, but whatever. You're here and I'm wasting your time. So, yeah, anyway. So the design I also made, I just kind of like, I was just winging it, right? I didn't have an actual, like I didn't have a template, paper template. Most people do a paper template design in a design program, whether it's CAD, Photoshop, whatever. I have those programs, but I just chose to wing it because I'm someone who just likes to do that stuff. I like to make things more difficult on myself. Anyway, so I did come up with a design that was relatively simple. Nothing wild. As you guys can see, or as you guys saw, this was the scale. There we go. Yeah, and then obviously you saw the blade earlier. So it was going well for the most part. The problem being was I didn't have a good system of correctly setting and drilling the holes. I didn't have a center punch, but I will say this. Having a center punch doesn't help me. So it helps some people, doesn't help others. I don't know. I don't know what other people will say or what other people think. But the center punch just made my life more difficult. Basically, if you don't know what a center punch is supposed to do, this is a center punch. This is an automatic one you get from Harbor Freight. It's like $10, something like that. You press down on it. It basically creates a pop and it divots the steel. And then the reason you do that is for the drill bit to catch in that divot, so it has something to start digging into and drilling into instead of just drilling straight blind, right? Anyway, so I thought having this would help. So that was kind of like my first mistake. Not to say that this is a bad investment or anything like that. It's just haven't quite figured out how to make this work for me. So what happened was it was going well with making the frame lock, and then I started using this. I did some center punches. I thought I had all the holes lined up. Turns out that two of the holes were, so I have them, the original holes I drilled for the standoffs, aka the backspacer, they were too big. I think I drilled them at 7/32. I don't know what that is in millimeters. So basically how you're supposed to do it is you drill slightly under. So if you have like 5mm screws, right? Pivot barrel screws, whatever. You drill 3/16, which is 5mm, and then you use a reamer, which is this. This is what a reamer is. And then you ream it out, and it basically makes the hole slightly bigger. This is a 5.1mm reamer, so it makes the tolerance slightly bigger by 100 thousandths, which kind of a big deal. It makes the screw you're going to put in the hole basically fit nice and snug, because the normal 3/16 hole, at least the pivot screws I have, like this, or the Corby bolts, whichever you choose to use, they don't fit perfectly at 3/16. If you do 7/32, a drill bit, that's a default drill bit, it's too big and there's too much play in the hole. So if you drill too big, then there's too much play, nothing's secure, it wiggles around. So that's what I did. I ended up accidentally drilling 7/32, thinking there'd be enough room, too much room. So then I offset the holes, got a reamer, all that. Everything was good until I went to put the stop pin in. Now, I was going to do the same thing. I was going to use a pivot screw for the stop pin because I like the idea of being able to adjust or remove it instead of it just being like a fixed item. Anyway, yeah, I ended up I was using the center punch, and I center punched one exactly where it needed to be, and then on the other one I center punched it, and unfortunately missed the center punch by I think like 1.5 mil, 2 mil, something like that. It could have been like 2.3 mil, somewhere in that range. It was just enough for basically actually I could just show you, just make my life easier. I don't think I'll be able to get this out. I have a pivot pin stuck in here, but we'll try and line these up. I'll show you. So the top hole there on the left, that is supposed to be the stop pin. As you can see, it did not go well. So yeah. So that was kind of my screw up. And what sucks is, I don't like wasting the material. So that's why I haven't recorded more on this, because I basically, this was like a trial run. I learned a ton from it. Processes that I should do, processes I shouldn't do, that kind of thing. So what I learned from it specifically is this. One, I tried to, first of all, we'll go back. One is obviously find a better method to doing the holes, so that way it's easier and they line up for myself. As you can see, I don't really line up. If you're wondering why there's so many holes on this scale, that was going to be the general guide template for the frame lock. So yeah, now on this new design that I'm doing, I figured that if I'm going to do all the holes, I originally glued them together, so that way all the holes line up. And then I used those as a template for drilling the holes where I need them for the blade. As you can see. And now it's going much better. So long story short, some things work and some things don't. So if you think you need like X, Y, and Z tools, or X, Y, and Z, you need to do X, Y, and Z processes, some things just won't work for you. Center punch is great, but for me, it just doesn't work for me. I need something that's a little more visually anchored to be able to drill press the holes. I need more of a guide. It is what it is. But that's why I stopped working on the original folding knife. Let me see if I can find what I did with the blade, because I set it down. Oh, here it is. The other issue is, so I was drilling this is where the stop pin was supposed to go. So the blade is in lock position, and then it rotates into deployment position, right? What happened was I over drilled the stop pin position here. So now when the blade was actually a full lock, instead of it being straight, it was like this. So it's something else I learned. It's a lot of like very minute things, like just being more slowing down, making sure that you're using guide methods that work for you. Having all the necessary bits that you need. I bought so many bits, man. Bits, reamers, all that stuff. You can't get reamers from like general hardware stores. So if you plan on doing this, right, whether you're going to make a folding knife, or you're going to make a fixed blade, you're still going to need to use a reamer. Reamers you have to get online. I would have loved to go to like Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace Hardware or insert other mom and pop store, but unfortunately reamers are like a very specialized thing, and in order to get them, here, let me show you. These are reamers, a whole pack of them. I had to buy them off Amazon. Especially, I had to singularly buy the one that I needed for my pivot screws, because I use 5mm pivot screws. So you're going to end up buying a lot of bits, probably, especially for doing this, unless you want to go the other route that I was tempted to do, which is just use general hardware from the hardware store, which I'm not necessarily against. It's something different. The only downside is hardware from the hardware store is either zinc coated or aluminum or stainless steel. Stainless steel is not so bad. Zinc is so I was thinking about doing that just because it would have been easier to just do all the threading and all that, because the stuff is like you can just run out to the store and grab it. I was thinking about doing that. I decided to not go that route. Maybe in the future I'll test that idea, just because, I don't know, it's something fun, it's different, it's weird. I like doing weird different things. This is life. There's no like set blueprint for how you're supposed to do anything, right? Whether it's building knives, cooking, welding, creating art, making music. It doesn't matter how you do it, just that you get the end result you're looking for, and that it's unique in your own way. And so that's something I thought about, and I was like, well, I can get hardware from the hardware store much easier than I can get most knife parts. Any knife parts you want to get, you have to order them online, and then it takes like a week, sometimes a week and a half for them to get here. So I had contemplated and played with that idea, just because convenience, more or less than anything. That's also just like a peeve of mine, is the fact that when you get into knife making, if you're making fixed blades, it's not a big deal, because you can just use hardware from the hardware store. But if you're gonna make a folding knife, you have to basically order all the parts online. Some of them you can get away with getting at the hardware store. Like you can get Torx at the hardware store, like M2s, M3s, M4s, etc. But you can't get pivot barrels, stop pins, detent balls, that kind of thing. It's just annoying. Also, a lot of the general steel that you'd be using, or metal, however you prefer to see it. You can't get hardware stores. You have to order it online, which is another annoyance in my opinion. Because I'm somebody who likes to, like, if I run into an issue in the shop, I want to be able to go out and get it. Not have to, like, order it online and wait 2 weeks for it to get here. But whatever. So, small rant over. So, yeah. What I learned. One, have a design printed, put it on all the materials you're going to use, print out multiple copies, then cut it out, attach it. Whether it's with, I use E6000. It's a rubber. I would mentally, I would put it as like an industrial adhesive. It's a rubberized adhesive, basically. That's really good at sticking to porous materials. I looked it up online because I originally got super glue. So I know a lot of people use super glue and they glue their scales together and then do all their holes. Pivot hole, stop pin, pivot hole, and then the standoffs, backspacer, or whatever. But I'll be honest, I got super glue. I think it's here actually. Yeah, I got some super glue. This shit kind of sucks. I think I let it set. I don't know if I let it set overnight. I let it set for like an hour or two. And it wasn't even, and I used quite a bit. I didn't like, douse it in it, but I used enough to stick the two metal pieces together because I was trying to glue the scales together. And, yeah, it was awful. It just came right apart. They both, basically they both slid apart. And that was that. And I had to grind because it had already started to dry. But where the physical point, so like when you, how do I word this? So when you goop it on there, right? It gets gooped on and it creates like this convex surface to it, right? And then that convex is what makes contact to the upper part of the scale, right? Well, the part that was touching the first scale had dried. So the base of the glue had dried, but the upper portion of the glue that was making contact with the upper scale hadn't, I guess. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because super glue is supposed to. So apparently, I looked it up online. Super glue is good for non-porous items, which also doesn't make sense to me because most items you glue together are porous. Most items you use super glue on are porous. So that didn't make any fucking sense to me. So I just went back to E6000 because the E6000 is rated for porous. It's a rubberized adhesive that's rated for porous materials. And it worked great on the metal. Like I used the E6000 on the first set of scales on my frame lock, the failed frame lock. I shouldn't say failed frame lock. The frame lock that didn't work out. And it worked great. So it adhered them just fine. So, yeah. Maybe it's just user error. I don't know. Maybe I just don't know how to use super glue correctly. Who knows? But, yeah. It's, that was like $3, so whatever. But I just thought that was weird. I'm like, how is super glue not working, but E6000 is working? Super glue, I forgot what it's made of. It's not a rubberized adhesive. It's like a, starts with a P, I think. But it's basically more ideal for materials are non-porous for ideal tensile strength, which makes sense. But also, most of the things people use it for are porous. Like when people glue their skin together, your skin is porous. So I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so got off track. Sorry. So things that helped me: printed out multiple copies of the design, cut them out, E6000 them to the materials. Then I cut the materials out. When I did the designs, I made sure that all the holes that were supposed to be drilled out weren't like roughly the 3/16 bit, but they were large enough to generally be a guiding point for where the 3/16 bit was going to be instead of doing a center punch. Let's see, what was the other thing? Oh, I have these small. So when I originally cut out these scales, and I did the holes, then I needed to do some grinding because some of them were a little uneven, which is fine, happens. So, but I was like, well, how am I gonna connect them together? Because E6000 takes like 20-30 minutes for it to adhere. I really don't want to wait that long. So I used small, these are small like pivot bolts basically. So this is the long side where the screws in. So you take the head, screw it in, pivot disc, the other thing, basically pivot it. So I used 2 of those to do that, and then I grinded the scales down so that way everything was equal and symmetrical. It's another thing. I was like, well, I got to make sure that these are connected properly, so that way when I do the grinding, that all the corners are ground perfectly, or relatively perfectly. So that was something else that I hadn't done in the past, but I did this time because I learned that it's important for that to be a thing. Drilling the hole in the blade. Sorry, drilling the pivot hole and stop pin hole in the blade. I actually took one of the scales. Technically, these are the liners because this is going to be a liner lock. Well, I was going to do a frame lock, but I had a couple pieces of titaniums that are 125 thou. I think that's 3 mil. 2.5 mil, something like that. Anyway. And what I did is I basically adhered them together with one of those pivot screws. And then I put it on my drill press and then did a small, I pressed down just enough for the drill to actually start to make a little indent. Then I pulled them apart and then finished drilling the hole. So that way I didn't have to worry about going off of a center punch. It went off the actual small indentation the drill actually started making. That was something else I learned. So that's basically how this is going. I'm not going to make any promises. So far this project is going relatively well. For all I know, I could do something between the time I record this video and later and completely botch this project. I don't plan on doing that, but yeah. So, I still need to figure out if I want to do offsets in the blade for the cage bearings, or if I just want to do some. There's like really not a lot of material to remove, so usually what I do is I drill like a little offset in the liner or in the frame lock, but there's not a lot of. It's not very thick to do that, so I don't know. I also don't really want to compromise the rigidity of the blade either. So I'm not really sure how I want to approach that. There's more than enough room to do an offset. I don't know. I might, as much as I hate to say this, I really don't like washers as a pivot system on knives. But I might just do washers. I don't know. I really don't like that as a pivot system, but yeah, I'll have to figure it out. I also have to figure out, so I was originally going to use these countersink pivots. So they're flathead countersinks. These are, I think, 12 mil. Yeah, I think they're 12 mil. But I'm thinking also because of the spacing and the fact that I want to put cage bearings on it, I might have to go with a 20 mil. So I'm not sure. I haven't quite made up my mind. There are going to be scales on this, so it's going to be a liner lock with scales. The scales I don't think will be inset. I did, however, just get a drill press, what's it called? Slide vise. I haven't had a chance to test it because I do have milling bits, and milling bits just don't really want to work on the drill press the way I have them. So that's going to be some. There's going to be some testing there. Yeah. And last but not least, I also used. I have a template for the backspacer. This is a piece of copper, big hunky piece of copper. This is probably 300 thousandths. No, this is like 250 thousandths, I think, or 200,000, something like that. But I wanted the backspacer to be made out of copper, so what I did, and I wanted to make sure that the holes are correct. Because as you can see on here, the holes are slightly off because the scales that the liners I ended up doing are slightly bigger. Just a slight design adjustment. So what I did was I took one of the scales, put it on this slab instead of just cutting this out and doing it that way, and then I clamped it to the drill press with this, and then made sure that both were even when I drilled through. So now all I have to do is cut it out, and then figure out what size bolts I'm gonna put in it, because I could do the countersinks or I could do the 20 mils because they're gonna be physical scales. I'll show you guys the scales. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I don't know if there's like a backing paper on these. So these are, I believe, G10. These are G10 red, white, and blue. So if you texture these, you'll see I don't know if you can see the composites there. I'm pretty sure these are red, white, and blue. Yeah, red, white, and blue. I don't know if you can see the like red, white, and blue layers there, but so when you texture these, the layers will come through. Really cool. So I have a set of these. These are G10, and I have a set of these, which they're desert something, but these are really dope. So let's see if I can get it to show up on light. There we go. So these are like desert G10 something. I can't remember off the top of my head. I bought a set of these, but they basically like shimmer and change color in the light. Let me see if I can turn this on. See if they'll do it. There we go. That's much better. Now you can see. So this will be super cool. Very cool. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't know which. What I could do, because these are, I think, roughly the same thickness. I think these are 200 thousandths or 175. These are either 200 thousandths or 175 thousandths. But I could hypothetically do one side different than the other. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know. But yeah, these are the scales I plan on using on the knife. So as far as, first I want to make this one and make sure it works, all that fun jazz. And then if that works, then I'll decide on if I'm going to make more of that design or if I'm just going to sell that design. Yeah, so because I want to do, the whole goal is to do small batch. Now I don't know, like I said, I don't know if I just want to do one of ones and then just sell them that way. I'm also, I'll have to cut this video short soon because I'm getting a migraine. anyway, so yeah, I don't know if I want to do one of ones where I just come up with one design, make it, and then sell it, or if I want to do like a small batch where I'll do like, I don't know, 3 of a knife or 5 of a knife, and then sell it, and then that's it. It's the end of the run, and then I go on to the next design. I don't know yet. I'm sure as I become better and better at this, the process will become faster as I start to streamline how I do things. Because I'm already starting to figure out in my head like how I want to streamline, doing the scales next time and all that fun jazz. But it still takes time. So yeah, yeah. I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, this is basically just like an update on what failed on the old folder, the old frame lock folder that I was working on, and then how the new one's going, how I did it, all that fun jazz. Plans are for the future. I do plan on. I am working on a fixed blade. I know I was working on those tiny fixed blades. You guys saw them, but I am working on a fixed blade. I started this the day before yesterday. It'll be like a cool little reverse Tonto fixed blade. Still got some work to do on it. I don't know if I'm only going to do one of these. We'll see. I don't even know what scales I'm going to put on it. I do have another set of scales. I have a bunch of micarta. I have like a slab of micarta. I can show you guys. Give me 1 second. So this is really nice, actually. So this is canvas micarta. This is a slab of it. It's pretty cool. It is an 1/8 inch thick, which is 200 thousandths. There you go. So maybe I'll put these scales on it. I don't know, but I have options. So yeah. I don't even know what I do with it. I just said, okay. Yeah, I mean, I could probably do that. That'd be cool. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do like a little bit of this canvas micarta, and then sorry, this isn't canvas micarta. This is jute micarta. My bad. Jute micarta. You guys can even see how much I paid for it. Jute micarta. Paid $16 for it. Yeah, you can get it in a slab. Maybe what I'll do is I'll cut out like small slabs of this, and then I'll cut out a piece of like copper and do like a little shipwreck complement piece of copper or something. I don't know. I also don't want to overcomplicate the process. So yeah, that is that. Yeah, that's that. I think, like I said, I'm getting a migraine, so I'm gonna go take meds, lay down and rest. I wanted to get more work done, but unfortunately my body thinks differently. So yeah, this video will, today's Friday. I don't know, I'll put this video up today. Who knows? Or it'll go up Saturday. I'm gonna try and be better about recording stuff, even if it's like completely off schedule. Even if I start just uploading like every other day, well, I'll try and be better about this stuff. But yeah, anyway, see you guys in the next one. Drink water, eat some good food, be kind to yourself. I'll see you in the next one.